Micah's asking, when did you have your awakening and what sparked it? Yeah, my awakening happened in 2013, January 2013. What sparked it? I mean, I'd love to talk about that. It's gonna, I don't know if you want to go to YouTube and watch Crown of Thorns video is where I kind of try to talk about like what sparked it. But it really was just a dream. I mean, it was a dream. I had a dream in 1993. It was unlike any dream I had ever had. I was about 19. I had this dream where I meet this being made of light. And, in this dream, I'm confronted with this being who is almost like a parent, it's giving me like this kind of parental love in this dream. It's just, I'm somehow connected to this being telepathically in the dream. I'm suddenly communicating with this being, and it's just pouring out this love and compassion and sort of that feeling of like everything's fine. Suddenly had access to all this information that, it was sort of like getting a download. That's the best way to describe it. And so in this dream, this being gave me a tour of reality. It showed me my future in this like cryptic way. Did not explain anything about my future. It just showed me a bunch of images. I'd love to go into great depth about that entire dream, but it's just too long. I would like to make a video about it at some point. I've made kind of short little excerpts, here and there, but I have this dream. This being tells me, upon waking up, this being says to me that there will be an event in your life and you won't know what your life means until after the event. And I didn't know what to make of it. It wasn't until 20 years later, I remembered this dream vividly. And for about the first 10 years after the dream, it floated around in my mind because I was told to look out for these images. And so I was. I didn't take it that seriously because I thought, well, maybe it was just a dream. Like, what kind of dream is that? But I took it seriously enough to keep these images in mind. And it wasn't until 20 years later when my life had my materialist attitude about life had led me into a dark corner. And only then, when I hit rock bottom, which is, a lot of people say that, a lot of people who are not living right will say, I had to hit rock bottom, before I woke up. And that's what happened to me. I hit rock bottom and I realized what the dream was trying to tell me. It was like suddenly the images in the dream were crystal clear, and I was like, oh shit, that's what the dream was trying to tell me. You won't know what your life means until after the event. And all the questions I was asking and all the misery that I was experiencing in my depression was about the fact that life did not seem to have any meaning. And then suddenly I learned what my life means. And that's the craziest part of this whole thing, is that I could have this dream in 1993 that's telling me at some point the meaning of your life will become obvious to you. And then 20 years later, to the month, because I had this dream in January 93, and then in January 2013, I realized, that was the realization of like, oh man, that was actually a real experience. That wasn't just some weird dream. And that being was trying to show me this. And my life changed overnight. I had been an anxious, angry, miserable kind of person. And most of the people around me knew it. My friends, my family, they kind of all knew that I was kind of miserable. And yeah, overnight, I was sort of healed of that. And that was the most miraculous thing, was to have this like overnight transformation. And then, of course, the people around me couldn't help but notice. They're like, dude, what happened to Chris?